Molds and spores. Are antimicrobials in HVAC air filtered products worth the investment? Learn what's happening in our industry. Learn what agents are available to you and how they differ. Gather the facts and make an educated decision. And the facts are that the elements that air filters are constantly exposed to wreak havoc on them. And the consequences are a substantial increase in operation costs to the end user. Now remember, when you start to inquire about an antimicrobial, it's going to be a political process. And it's all going to depend on your supplier and whether or not they have access to a solid performing agent. If they don't, then they're more than likely going to steer you away from an antimicrobial, saying, you just need to change your filters more often. Well, that doesn't help the end user's wallet. So these last couple of pictures, what you're looking at are pleated filters, usually the first stage of filtration in a vast majority of our hospitals. And what I want to point out is you're going to see different brands, you're going to see different labels, different manufacturers, but they all have the same problem. They cannot withstand the elements that they are constantly exposed to. So after years of debating this with other people in this industry, I decided to take a different approach. Now what I'm doing is I'm presenting all the facts to end users. I'm presenting all the facts to the big decision makers for hospitals here. And what you see is these conditions happen. They exist. And instead of ignoring it, I'm creating awareness because I know what's at stake here. So if you're paying attention, you'll notice that yes, all these products look similar. They look very similar, but they're different colors, they have different labels on them. They're all from different manufacturers, yet they all have the same issue. They all succumb to the elements that they are constantly exposed to, and they start to grow molds and spores, which increases the liability of the facility that they're in. And what I haven't even shown you yet, I haven't even begun to show you, is how this increases operation costs. Now we'll get back to that, but for now I want to focus on molds and spores and the real threat. Now these are final filters, sometimes referred to as secondary or primary filters. And really what I want to point out here is it doesn't only happen to pleated filters. It happens to the final filters as well. Now this facility didn't even know that this was happening. I just happened to go in, give a presentation, and at the conclusion of the presentation, I asked them if they wanted me to survey an air handler. So they took me up to the roof, popped open the air handler, and this is what we found. Scary thing is these guys had no clue this was happening. Here's another facility, same scenario. I went in, gave a presentation. At the conclusion of my presentation, they took me to an air handler that they wanted me to survey, popped it open, and sure enough, this is what we found. It happens everywhere. It happens more often than not, and it's a pretty scary scenario, especially for those who are responsible for the well-being of occupants to their facility. Now these are what we call a rigid box. These products are becoming obsolete. The pictures before this, those types of products, the mini V cells are pretty much taking over for these and have been for a while. But you still see these out there once in a while. Same results though. Take a look. You see that they're covered with mold. And again, this facility had no clue that this was happening. Here we're getting back to those V-style cells, and it just really demonstrates their popularity. But if you're paying attention, you'll see that these, even though they look similar to the other ones, there's some differences, and that's because they're made by a different manufacturer. But the bottom line is they have the same problems, the same vulnerability, and that's just the way it is with these products. So as far as I'm concerned, the whole debate about antimicrobials is not a debate our industry should be having amongst the manufacturers and distributors. We should be coming up with a solution for end users, which is why I've decided to take this angle and present everything to the end user, all the facts, and let them make their minds up for themselves. Now, there are some products out there that are advertised as products that do not promote molds and spores, and I never really quite understood that, why they make those claims, even though they know the elements are there. Uh, Filters are a perfect breeding ground and that it occurs. And to me, it just made sense that if there's no agent to prevent it, then it's possible. And all these pictures support that. Now, you do have options. There are 3 antimicrobials in the market that you can choose from. Now, I urge you to do your research on them. You already know that molds and spores is a real threat within an HVAC system, and that air filters are a perfect breeding ground. They're a perfect host for microbial growth, and it happens. So let's talk about the antimicrobials. Like I said, there are 2 biostats and 1 biocide. The biocide is called Sporax. It is used exclusively by Fiberbond Corporation. Intercept is used exclusively by AAF International. And Aegis is used pretty much by all other HVAC air manufacturers and suppliers. So what is the difference between a biocide and a biostat? Well, it's simple. A biocide is a chemical that kills living organisms. And this is where it's not so simple. A biostat is a chemical that prevents the growth or proliferation of living organisms, but does not necessarily prevent metabolism. What is an antimicrobial? An antimicrobial is a substance capable of inhibiting or destroying the growth of microorganisms. Microbial growth can be easily visible on the surface of the filter or as hidden growth within the media. The buildup of microbial growth can cause an increase in liabilities, increase in resistance, and reduce the usable service life of the filter. Now, one of the most important differences between the agents is how they are applied. Now, Sporax is incorporated into the binder on the filter. Fiberbond has over 50 years experience in the formulation of binder systems. Sporax is a permanent part of the binder. The process is not a post-application. The other 2 agents, Intercept and Aegis, are post-application products. They are applied via aerosol on finished products. Why Sporax? Sporax can inhibit mold growth even after the life of the filter. Sporax will not leach, migrate, or off-gas from the binder. Sporax has proven effective in the field and in the marketplace. Why is Sporax the product of choice? Sporax has been used for over 20 years in building construction materials. It can still resist even after the life of the filter. It is proven effective in the field and in the marketplace. Dirty filters are the perfect host. 3 elements support microbial growth: darkness, moisture, and supply of nutrients. All are readily available within the confines of an air handler system. Filtration media can provide the perfect breeding ground for mold and mildew, and now you know it happens. Fiberbond Corporation uses Sporax antimicrobial in adhesives and binders that connect otherwise loose fibers together into filter media. This use thoroughly incorporates Sporax into the media so it becomes an integral part of the media as it is manufactured. This method is clearly different from and clearly preferred to treat air filters with antimicrobial agents. In selecting an antimicrobial, Fiberbond was interested in a material that would become an integral part of the media and could not be carried or leached out. Fiberbond selected an agent that is registered for use in adhesives to become a permanent part of the media. Fiberbond rejected other materials that could only be applied to the surface after a filter is made. This is an important difference in selecting among antimicrobial products. It is also important to select the most effective antimicrobial with the best safety profile. That is why Fiberbond selected Sporax. Fiberbond wanted a biocide rather than a biostat because when given a choice, a biocide is a more effective method in preventing the growth of microorganisms. Fiberbond was impressed that Sporex had the effectiveness and the safety that gave manufacturers of soft drinks the confidence to use the same material in the sealants for their soft drink cans. Also liking the variety of the same material being used with confidence in children's finger paints and registered with the EPA, as well as clearance for use in formulations under the regulations of the USDA and FDA. So there you have it. Facts. You now know that the elements HVAC air filters are constantly exposed to wreak havoc on them, substantially increasing liabilities for this facility that they are in. It happens more often than not. Now, the other part we didn't touch on is how they substantially increase operation costs. Now, to get the rest of that information from here, click on Filters and click on the first image, which is the Invincible 500 Mervate links and panels. And there you could see how conventional products further increase liabilities and significantly increase operation costs. I hope this helps. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us.